Welcome everybody. You probably know who I am by now. Well, did you see that thumbnail? We're talking about Peel Stop again. Zinsser Peel Stop. Now, there's a video link there. This time last year I did a video regarding, I'm at home, I'm working at home, you know what it's like, busman's holiday, working at home. I did a video on about using Santex stabilising solution. I've got a lovely concrete custom made, sounds even posher that way, custom made bench that is curved. You get the idea, all the way around. Got a nice curve and it overlooks the vista of my expansive garden. Yeah, I mean, East calls it a park. It's not quite a park, but to a little kid that's only, I don't know, a metre tall, any bit of grass seems like a park, I suppose. But I did a video on painting this bit of a rendered wall underneath the concrete seat. Now the concrete seat, originally when it was done with the landscape gardeners, that sounds posh as well, with the bloke who did the garden I should say, he had some renderers in and builders that could do a bit of brickwork and make a concrete bench. Now that was sealed with some concrete sealer, so we've got a concrete look about that. But the rendering below, as you can see, we paint. Now, being a painter and decorator, for me to paint this each year isn't a problem. Now you're going to say, Phil, why are you painting it each year? I'm having to paint it each year because nobody put any shuttering or treated or put anything at the back of this seat area to stop the damp from the soil, from the plants coming through and creating effervescence, damp, whatever you want to call it, pushing off my masonry paint. So unfortunately I have to do something about this render each year just to keep on top of it. Now last year on that video you saw what I did. I cleaned all the loose off and we used Santex stabilising solution, which was fine. It's lasted me 12 months. And we painted over it with the black Santex masonry paint, which again is fine, it looks nice, but 12 months on with the damp coming from the winter and just the usual moisture coming through render, I've got a little bit of effervescence and some of that paint comes off. Now this year I'm coming back again to do a bit of painting with it, but instead of using the Santex, which was fine, it did what it needed to do, stabilising solution. Where do you use it? Friable, problematic surfaces, just like what I'd got. But this year I'm going to give a go with the Peel Stop, because the Peel Stop is very much like a stabilising solution. I'll read the can for you. It's a clear binding primer, seals cracks and crazing, that's if you've got painted surfaces, and glues down old paint edges. You've probably seen in that video where I used Peel Stop to seal paint edges from flaking paint. It also binds chalky substrates. Now this is what we've got. We've got a chalky substrate. It's not brand spanking new. It's now 2 years old. We've got a little bit of effervescence. We've got some flaking paint that's happened. We want to bind it all. We want to give it a good base for painting over. When I come to do it in the next few days, we'll let it dry. So why am I using this? One, because it'd be interesting to see how it stands up compared to using the stabilising solution. And two, I want to make a video on it because a lot of people don't realise that you can actually use Peel Stop outside. I keep going on about this one. Zinsser Guards is an interior. This is an interior. This is also an exterior primer sealer. The guards, Zinsser Guards, isn't used for outsides, so that's made that quite clear. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tip some paint out into a little, this is one of the eco, papier-mâché, that's my French, papier-mâché kettles. I'm going to tip a bit out and work from that, so I'm not using a big full 5 litre tin, and I'm going to give a go. I don't know whether you've seen them before. I'm trying these brushes out. They're the Monaco Advanced brushes. Now this is a 3-inch, really nice. And I've got to give a shout out, I'm not sponsored, no money's changed hands, it's just a case of I've had a few freebie brushes sent to me because Monarch Advanced had seen my video channel, this one that you're watching, where I've been going on about I can't get hold of a 4-inch brush. Now Monarch Advanced do a 4-inch brush, 100mm, and it's an emulsion brush, which Beckwith decorators were short of emulsion brushes. So they've sent me a few brushes out. One of them is a 3-inch, that's an 88mm brush. Just quickly, if you've not already seen it on other videos, they're a non-slip wooden raw handle, so they're a dry handle, which I like personally. I don't like them varnish where you can slip through your fingers. You've got a stainless steel ferrule, you've got 3-pin, you see that? 3 pins holding it in place. If you've got a 4-inch, it has 4 pins. You've got an advanced synthetic filament bristle, and if you look at that, oh, and if you smell it, got to sniff the bristle. If you see those bristles there, they're an advanced filament bristle with a nice, I don't know whether you can see it, a nice tip to it, which means when we're doing emulsioning we can cut in quite nicely with it. Another thing about these brushes, there's loads in the range, so please check them out. They're Australian, they're new to the UK, you might have seen them at some trade shows up and down the country, and they might be in a local painting and decorating merchant near you. But as I say, no endorsement, no sponsorship. If I don't like them, I'll tell you. If I do like them, I'll tell you, and hopefully you might like to try them out and just say, yeah Phil, I've also had the same problem, can't get hold of a 4-inch brush for emulsioning, or a 3-inch. So let's see how these go. Now I've got other areas in my garden that I've needed to do some stabilising, so I've already done those. I'm coming to do this video. I've already used this brush and I know what they're like, they're lovely. I've washed it out. I've not noticed any filament bristle loss, so that's good. And what I'm going to do with you, I'm going to work out that tub, applying the peel stop to that area. I'm going to do all the way across. I'm not going to just do the areas that the paint's come up, I'm going to coat the whole lot up. So without further ado, Pew, Bonner McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble and Grub, I'm going to get cracking on this, and then I'll let it dry, and in the next couple of days I'll come back and put some masonry paint on. You don't need to see that, it's just straightforward black. But I will say to you, this stuff, if you give it a good coat, there's actually no need to be giving it 2 coats. Some people say give it 2 coats for extra protection. We're not looking at really extra protection, we're looking at giving it a good coat, a good sound coat over this area, which I've previously dusted off, scraped, jet washed. It's dry. There's no powder on it because I've gone over it with a hand brush to sweep anything off, so it's dusted down. So I'm just going to give it a good coating of this. Just make sure you don't miss anything. If you feel you're going to miss anything, please give it a second coat, but no need, no need, no need, Gromit, no need. Let's crack on. Right, I'm ready to start. I've got the nice Monarch brush out. I've got the stuff in the kettle, and before I do start, let's just make it clear, this stuff is not PVA. I'm making myself clear with that. Do not use PVA to do what I'm doing. PVA, once it's wet, will revert back to its original form. So if this is outside with PVA and it rains on it, what's going to happen? It's going to soften back up, it's going to go back to a liquid solution. It does not do what we are wanting Peel Stop to be doing, or stabilising solution. PVA would be mixed in with the renders, with the cements, with the stuff that a plasterer, a renderer, a builder uses. PVA should not be used by the decorator to be coating out surfaces to act as a primer. It doesn't work. People are getting away with it, but let me tell you, PVA is not a primer to put onto a surface before painting. We're clear on that. Please watch some videos where I've talked about PVA. It's wrong, it's wrong. And then quickly, this stuff once applied Takes about an hour to dry. You wash your kit out with water, there's no issues there. Once it's on, it's creating a flexible membrane surface, shall I say, does that sound quite posh, that you can then paint over, and it'll be sealing all that dry, flaky, friable surface. You know what friable surface is? Google it. There we have it, my chickadees. I have to say, these brushes are lovely. The more I'm using them, the more I'm liking them. For an emulsion brush, they're ideal. The way the tips go short, don't you see? Go short when you're cutting in. They keep together, they're really nice. They do ovals, they do slash cut. Please check that range out. But no, I'm all good. That will now take about an hour to dry. You could be coating that up the same day if you wanted with some emulsion. I'm not. I'm going to wait till I've got a spare evening or something like that, and I'll be painting that in my own time later on. But all I will say is, don't use it if you think it's going to rain. Common sense, please. And also read the back of the can just in case. One last question that gets asked: when do you use stabilising solutions and when do you use peel stops on rendered walls? Don't use stabilising solution on brand spanking new render. Now, if it's clean and sound and dry, you don't need a stabilising solution. Where you do need a stabilising solution or a peel stop is when you've got old, friable, problematic surfaces when it comes to render, and you'll know which render surfaces those are when you come up against them. If you run your hand over it and it goes all white powdery because there's an efflorescence coming through, and I'm not on about the sand of the render coming away because it's obviously deteriorating that way, because that you can brush off. If you were emulsioning these rendered surfaces, if it's a new surface, just thin your emulsion down as that first coat to soak in, and then thicken your paint up as you progress, if that makes sense. If you're putting 3 coats on, your first coat will be thin, your second coat will be not so thin, and your third coat will possibly be neat. But you don't need to use stabilising solution on new renders or stuccos or like pebble dash. Just brush it down, coat it up, but that first coat will be thinned to soak in. You will use stabilising solution if it's an older surface with problems and they call it a friable surface, i.e. very powdery because it's crumbling and old. You need it as a binder, these products as a binder for your subsequent coats. So on that note, I'm going to say thanks for listening. We've not been half an hour on this, but that will dry lovely. It will bind those matte, and we'll call it mapping, edges of the paint, seal it nicely, ready for a coat of paint over the top. Under no illusions I'll be doing this again this time next year.